Well, welcome. My name is Jamie. Welcome to my backyard garden and this very first episode of what I'm going to call the Experimental Gardener. Why am I going to call it that? Because this is one big experiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some videos once a week, let you see some of what I've been doing. I'll show you what works, show you what doesn't work, and we'll just take what we can learn from that and go on. And so quick little tour real quick. You can see behind me I've got 7 raised beds built. The first one's already planted. It's got salad greens, celery, some herbs. Then I've got 3 other beds right behind them that I'm gonna grow squash and spinach and cabbage in. The spinach and cabbage is already in the ground. The first planting of squash is in the ground. I'm going to do 2-week successions on the squash because if you plant 6 squash plants all at one time, you'll have more squash than you can give away. Behind the squash beds are my 3 newest beds. I just built those this weekend actually. And they're lasagna beds. And what that means is it's just built in layers, just like you would a pan of lasagna. You start out with a layer of cardboard to kill the grass, then a layer of straw or some other organic material, some leaves, grass clippings, compost, and you just build it in layers until you get the height that you want. The good thing about lasagna beds is that it lets you go ahead and plant just right away. The downside is you're going to have to rebuild it over 2 or 3 years because it's mostly organic material and it will decompose. And these 3 beds will probably lose 75% of their volume this year. So that's something that I know going into it. I'm okay with that. I have plenty of grass clippings throughout the summer, plenty of leaves this fall, so I can just rebuild them as I need to. I've got a bed of tomatoes growing along the fence, and then over on this side, I don't know if you can see it in this shot or not, is my compost bin. Now, that's your best friend if you're going to do an urban garden, which is what this is. You can see the size of my backyard is 45 feet by 75 maybe, so my entire backyard is really small. But you'd be surprised the amount of food that you can grow in a space this size. So in my compost bin, I have 2 different methods going right now, and I've just cranked both of them up again today. One is a container that actually rotates and it stirs the compost as you rotate it, so it's full now with some old compost and grass clippings and some straw that I mixed in there. I've given it a dozen good turns to get it mixed up, and then in the bin there is compost that's left over from last fall, just grass clippings and leaves and sawdust out of my wood shop. It's been sitting there cold composting all winter. And if you reach down into it, you'll pull out just handfuls of earthworms, and those are your best friends. So I'm doing a little experiment with these 2 to see which one is going to fire up first. Whichever method seems to work best is the one I'm going to focus my energy on this year, because I'm building this garden from scratch this time. If you're a first-year gardener, if this is something you've never done before, but it's something you'd like to give it a try, this will be a good way for you to get started. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to walk you through building a lasagna bed. Like I said, I have 7 built already. I have 2 more that I want to build, one for strawberries, one for sweet corn, and maybe some pole beans or something like that, possibly a 3 sisters. We'll get into stuff like that later on. My problem is sunlight. My backyard is shaded most of the day. So I've picked out a few spots that I think will get enough sunlight to grow vegetables. And then I've built beds in other places for more shade tolerant plants, salad greens, cabbage, broccoli, the brassicas and those types of things. So like I said, this is an experimental garden. So let's just get started and see what happens. Okay, so a lasagna bed. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, it's just exactly what it sounds like. If you've ever made a pan of lasagna, you layer the sauce, you layer the pasta, you layer the cheese, and you just repeat until you get a full pan. It's the same thing with a lasagna bed. Now let me show you what I've done here already. I've laid out my spot. This is at the downhill end of the raised beds I already have built. This would be on the south side, so whatever I grow in this bed has to be shorter than what I'm growing in these other beds so that it doesn't shade them out, because I'm dealing with enough shade as it is already. The first layer, the most important layer, is a good layer of cardboard or newspaper. That does a couple of things. It's going to help retain moisture. It's going to kill your weeds. So I've built several of these beds over the years. The ones that did not have cardboard down first were weeding nightmares. I have one of mine already that I built last year. I did not put cardboard in, and we're having a major difficult time trying to keep the weeds out of it. So first layer of cardboard. Now I pulled the tape off. Cardboard will break down, tape will not. So just take a few minutes, pull the tape off before you lay it on the ground. Or if you don't want to take the time to pull it off now, go ahead and build it, and then next year when you turn it for the spring, the cardboard's going to be mostly gone and the tape will be left laying on the ground. You just pick it up and throw it away. I've gone ahead and pulled it off this time, so I'll throw this away in a minute. So what we've got is we've got our layer of cardboard. I have a straw bale. I have a package of peat moss, and I have a wheelbarrow full of the compost that I just mixed a few minutes ago. It's still green. It still has a lot of organic matter in it. It has not cooked down yet, but what it's going to do is it's going to help me build these layers, and then as this decomposes, it'll all work together. It'll come together, and this time next year, this is going to be a beautiful bed. Now, the cool thing about lasagna beds, it's a whole lot like a pot of homemade soup. All right, it's pretty good on the first day, but it gets a lot better on the second, third day. So that's what we're going to be looking for here. So let's just get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to bust this bale of straw. We're going to spread the straw out. Now, I like to have a border on my beds. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. Of course, you can buy borders. I don't like to buy borders. I like to use natural borders. I do have one that's got brick for a border, but I don't love it. I'll probably wind up redoing that one. The border that I've chosen for this bed is just old firewood. We bought this house about 1.5 years ago. Previous owners had left a stack of firewood against the fence. It had been there for years. It's half rotted. We burned it in the fireplace the first winter, but then this last winter I didn't burn it. So I have laid it around because I do like to be able to weed eat and keep the weeds off my garden beds. It's not the prettiest thing right now, but when the vegetables get up and they start growing over and everything, you won't see it. And an added benefit is in a few years you have more organic matter. So we're just going to layer the straw in. This straw actually looks like it has a little hay in it. That may not be good. The reason I like to use straw instead of hay is wheat seeds are a lot easier or wheat seedlings are a lot easier to pull out than some of the weed seeds you might get out of a bale of hay. All right, there's the straw. You may be thinking, well, that's a lot of straw. And it does look like it's a lot right now. But in just a second, I'll show you the beds I built this weekend. And just over 3 days, with one good rain on them, they've already lost a third of their volume. They'll do that, and that's okay. So we'll just build them back up next year. So we have the straw down. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the peat moss and we're gonna bust it open, spread it around, and mix it in with the straw a little bit. Again, experimental gardener. The beds that I built last weekend, I was running low on my compost, so I was trying to make it last. So I bought a few bales of peat moss. I built my straw bed, I built my lasagna bed. I layered it with different organic material, and I covered it with about 2 inches of peat moss. And I thought, boy, that's pretty. And then it rained, and the rain just ran off the top of the peat moss. So that's one of the reasons that mixing your layers is kind of important. That way you don't get a solid layer that causes your water to run off and not get to the roots. Okay, let's bust the peat moss. We're just going to take this and we're going to just bust it up, shovel it around into the bed. A bed this size could probably handle 2 bales of peat moss, but we're just going to go with the one, just to get you to see how you're doing it. And this stuff is so heavily compressed that this 3 cubic foot bale will go a lot further than you think it would. Okay. So there's a bale of peat moss that's been busted on top of the straw. So there's our second layer, third layer if you count the cardboard. Just going to smooth this out a little bit and kind of mix it in with the straw a little. So now we have our first 2 layers. We're going to do one more layer, and then I'm going to let this bed sit for a week or 2. We're in zone 6 here in West Kentucky. Today is April 13th, so we're still a little cool. Tonight it's supposed to get down to 34, so I'm going to have to cover all my tomatoes and stuff before I go in for the night. But we're going to take the compost mix, we're going to sprinkle it over the top of this bed, and then we're just going to let this bed rest for a while. I'm not gonna make you go watch all of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish covering the bed. And like I said, I'm just gonna let it rest. Usually I don't plant a lot of my in-ground stuff until Earth Day at least, and probably the 1st of May. So we're still about 2 weeks out from ideal planting season here. Now, before I plant this one though, I may come in and add an inch or two of a potting mix on top of it just to give the seed something to start in. Or you can come in, you can dig a trench and plant down towards the bottom. Then as the seedlings come up, you can just fill the trench in. So that is a lasagna bed. They're super easy. Another form of lasagna bed is what's called a hugelkultur, and you add one more layer at the bottom, and it's just the sticks and stuff you pick up out of your yard during the winter. We'll build one of those another time. I've got a little pile of branches and stuff right here behind the camera, and so it'd be a good time to use that. So there's your first lasagna bed. Happy gardening. Okay, so this is an impromptu video. I didn't plan on doing this one today, but I'm so excited about this. I've been doing some research on ways to prevent weeds and ways to retain moisture in an urban garden, because that's what I've got. And one of the things that I keep seeing is to build a bed of wood chips. So this morning I started making some phone calls. We've got a couple of sawmills and stuff like that in the area. And it was just going to be so expensive that I was afraid it was going to be cost prohibitive. And it was really disappointing. And so I just threw a little blurb out on Facebook, and it's good to have connections, okay? And so what just happened is a tree company just backed up into my driveway and dumped a whole load of wood chips in my driveway. I am so happy. So now I get to take these, I'll wheelbarrow them around back, and I'll get to start filling in around my beds and things like that. And then this summer, I won't have to water. I shouldn't have to do much weeding. And over time, this is just going to build a beautiful, beautiful soil for my vegetables. So use your connections and thank them. Thank them vigorously when they do this, because this pile of wood chips cost me nothing. And it's just because I have some friends who happened to see what I'd put out there and were willing to help. So they'll be getting some vegetables this summer. Okay, so I have spent about the last hour or so, maybe the last hour and a half, filling up a wheelbarrow in the front yard with wood chips, bringing it around through the gate into the backyard and laying it in between my raised beds. I've been building about a 6-inch layer. I'm about halfway done probably. I still have a little more around front, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do any more tonight or not. We've got clouds coming in, it's supposed to be raining, and the temperature's gonna drop, and I've gotta get my tomatoes covered before I go in. But what I wanted to do today with the lasagna bed is show you just how easy it is to do this kind of gardening. Now, I've taken just a regular city backyard, 45 feet by 75 or 80 feet. It's not big. It was a mess when we bought this house. It was overgrown. There was hummingbird vine all over everything, roots, bricks buried in the yard. It was a mess. And so little by little, I'm getting it cleaned up and getting it built the way I want it built. And I'm hoping that this will show you just how easy it is to build these kinds of raised beds with stuff you have around the house. I've started collecting my grass clippings, my leaves. You can see I have several trees, and so when the leaves come down, I run over them with my mulching mower, and then I put them on my compost pile. Or I'll just lay them directly on the beds and just let them decompose over the winter. But we've got the wood chips. Now, these are going to do a few, 2 or 3 things again. For one, it's going to help with weed control. It will help with water retention, so I shouldn't have to water at all this summer. We'll see. And remember, this is experimental garden, so we don't know what's going to happen. They're soft to walk on because I like to garden barefooted. It's very unusual for me to be dressed like I am today in my garden. I'm usually in shorts, flip-flops, or barefooted. And in a year, 2 years' time, as these things start to break down, I will have beautiful garden soil all over my backyard. You can buy soil, of course. You can go to any of the box stores, you can get a bag of it. You can get it that's already got the fertilizers mixed into it. You can get it that's already got organic matter mixed into it. If you do that, you're going to spend a lot of money. I mean, you're talking $4 a bag for a cubic foot, maybe 3/4 of a cubic foot, and it's going to run into a lot of money, which is going to make gardening cost prohibitive for a lot of folks. So scrounge around, look at what you've got in your backyard. I don't know if you can see them or not, but beside my compost bin, right there, I have my own little brush pile. Every backyard needs a brush pile. It's a perfect little ecosystem. It's a good little habitat for yard critters, birds, mice, all kinds of stuff. Love to hole up in those little brush piles. And they're good for garden uses. And maybe in the next few days, like we mentioned earlier, we'll look at how to build a hugelkultur bed. And we'll use those branches that are in that pile right there. So you can do this with stuff that you have laying around your house. You can collect your grass clippings, you can collect your leaves, your old newspapers, old cardboard boxes, anything like that will break down. Now, these wood chips, and this may be a whole nother episode all by itself, but they look like, just looking at them, they look like they may have a really good mix of what we call green and brown material. Now, it's not necessarily the color, even though the color is green and brown, but it's talking about the nitrogen content versus the carbon content, and there's certain ratios that you need to really get your compost cooking, parts of nitrogen per parts of carbon. And just looking at these coming out of the back of the truck, it looks like they've got a really good mix already. And so we're going to see what happens with this. This is the first time I've done this kind of stuff with the wood chips, so I'm just as curious about it as you are. Now, that may be about all we get done for today. So if you have any questions, drop it in the comments. I will look at these myself and be glad to do what I can to answer any questions you have. And like I said, we're calling this thing the experimental garden. I have no clue what's going to happen. We're just going to see. But it's important to just get outside and do it. And now you can say, but Jamie, I can go to a grocery store. I can take a $20 bill and I can come out with all the produce I need for dinner. You're absolutely right, you can do that. But this is going to taste so much better, and it's going to be so much better for you, because this is not going to ride in the back of a truck for 1,300 miles before it gets to your house. So until next time, I'm Jamie, and welcome to my experimental garden.